These are creepy TikToks that will make you rethink your whole reality.
1904, 21-year-old Oda Banga was abducted from a tribe in the Congo and transported to the Bronx Zoo, where he was put on display alongside monkeys. He was placed in a small cage with an orangutan as an apparent depiction of evolution. Oda was given a functional bow and arrow to enhance his primitive image and to protect himself from the ape if necessary. Since visitors were far more interested in Oda than the actual animals at the zoo, the exhibit was extremely popular and began shattering attendance records.
Is Michael Jackson really gone? The rumor that Michael Jackson faked his death is still well and alive. However, despite all the evidence, it only remained a rumor. Until recently, when some documents were leaked that Michael had a body double that allegedly was buried in his place.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 22. In the 18th century, you could bring your cat or dog to the London Zoo and actually pay your admission by feeding it to the lions. Bus seats are specifically designed so you can't tell how dirty they really are. When an octopus reproduces, it removes its penis and throws it at the female so she can impregnate herself, and then he grows back another one. Oysters are actually alive when they're served.
This man got 23 years in prison and he's smiling. The man's name is Jason, or the Alaskan Avenger. He's a vigilante that hunted down child sex offenders and beat the hell out of them.
I'm back, it's your boy Fittie to the E, and today I got some strange videos for you guys today. Just remember to like the video, subscribe, and if you like the chain, check the link down below. We got free shipping going out right now, that's the deal. And Christmas is coming up, so think about getting one of these as a gift for maybe your son, your daughter, your friend, whatever it may be.
Let's talk about the new case of a woman that tried to murder her doppelganger with cheesecake, and how it was solved using her Facebook posts. This is Victoria Nazarova. She poisoned a piece of cheesecake and gave it to her beauty stylist, Olga. Her plan was to kill Olga and steal her identity. People said that they looked alike, so she was literally just gonna become Olga. However, Olga only got very sick and never died. So then police were on the hunt for her. How did they find her? Well, using these photos from Facebook. A detective knew what kind of car she was driving based off of the reflection of the dashboard of the car and the stitching on the car's headrest. He then looked at her Facebook likes to see what areas or restaurants she liked. All of them were in one central area, so they knew that that's where she lived. I'm running out of time. Part 2 coming soon.
Honestly, that's why nowadays in this current generation, if you're posting on social media and you try to do a crime, bro, you're gonna get caught immediately.
This is part 2 of the case of the woman that tried to kill her doppelganger to steal her identity. She tried to do this with a poisoned piece of cheesecake. Okay, so police were on the hunt for her, right? They figured out what car she drove and what area she lived in. They then used this photo that she posted on Facebook to figure out what complex she lived in. As you can see, you can kind of see her condo building through her sunglasses. And some police officer knew this exact building. Sure enough, he was right. They went there, they arrested Victoria. Turns out that she was wanted in Russia for another murder. So her plan was to steal Olga's identity and become Olga so that she could escape Russian authorities. Now she's facing jail time, and after that she's being sent back to Russia and she's gonna get persecuted there. So, wow. Make sure you like and follow for more scary videos and check me out on YouTube, link in bio.
You see, that's strange. I was always thinking, like, why did she want to murder her stylist? I guess she was jealous, but to me, that's just a little bit sad, man.
This is part 4 of Edmund Kemper, also known as the CoEd Killer. I'm warning you now, do not watch this part if you are easily triggered. He would take their bodies back to his home where he decapitated them and performed erumatio on their severed heads and had sexual intercourse with their corpses and dismembered them. During his 11-month murder spree, Kemper killed 5 college students, 1 high school student, his mother, and his mother's best friend. Kemper has stated in interviews that he often searched for victims after having arguments with his mother and that she refused to introduce him to women attending the university where she worked. He said that she would say, "You're just like your father and you don't deserve to get to know them." Psychiatrists and Kemper himself believe that the young women were surrogates for his ultimate target, who was his mother. On May 7, 1972, Kemper was driving in Berkeley when he picked up 2 18-year-old hitchhiking students from Fresno State University, Mary Ann Pesce and Anita Mary Lucchesa, with the pretense of taking them to Stanford University. After driving for an hour, he managed to reach a secluded wooded area near Alameda, which he was familiar with because of his work with the highway department. Without alerting his passengers, he had changed directions from where they wanted to go. It is there that he handcuffed Pesha and locked Lucchesa in the trunk, then stabbed and strangled Pesha to death, and then subsequently killed Lucchesa in a similar fashion. Kemper later confessed that while handcuffing Pesha, he brushed the back of his hand against one of her breasts, and it embarrassed him, adding that he said, "Whoops, I'm sorry," or something like that. Kemper put both of the women's bodies in the trunk of his Ford Galaxy and returned to his apartment. He was actually stopped on the way by a police officer for having a broken taillight, but the police officer did not detect the corpses in the car. Kemper's roommate wasn't at home, so he took the bodies into his apartment where he photographed and had sexual intercourse with the naked corpses before dismembering them, and he then put the body parts into plastic bags, which he later abandoned near Loma Prieta Mountain. Before disposing of their severed heads in a ravine, Kemper engaged in irrumatio with both of them. In August of that year, Pesha's skull was found on Loma Prieta Mountain. An extensive search failed to turn up the rest of Pesha's remains or any trace of Lucchesa. Come back for part 5.
I gotta say, that's one of the most disturbing stories I've heard all morning, bro. Like, what's going on, bro? I really be wondering why people do stuff like that. Like,
let's talk about one of the creepiest kids' toys ever to exist, the Furby. These toys are super popular in the late 90s and early 2000s. But what made them so creepy? Well, if you take one apart, it looks just like this. One of the creepiest things about Furbies is that they had a power store inside of them, so removing the batteries did nothing. Unless you laid them down like they were sleeping, they were still going to talk to you at 3 a.m. and give you night terrors. To add on to this, if you ignore the Furby for too long, it actually changes its voice. So it sounds kind of guttural and demonic. Also, the Furby's language is called Furbish, which really sounds like they're speaking in tongues when you hear them. They also scream "feed me" in the middle of the night too. Let me show you a creepy example of a Furby toy. Check this out. Now imagine waking up to that at 2 or 3 a.m. as a child on top of that. Also, there's somebody on Craigslist that turns your Furbies into huge Furbies, which, this is even scarier than the original. Imagine this thing going off at 2 or 3 a.m. I wouldn't be able to sleep for the rest of my life. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below and what you guys want me to talk about next.
he said he wouldn't be able to sleep for the rest of his life. I think he'd be sleeping for his whole life, honestly. But what do you think about furries like that? Like, I'm not really a big fan of stuff like that, but if you are, let me know your thoughts about that.
He was all alone while working his shift when he hears this. A man that works as a custodian at his school explains that him and his coworkers kept hearing things during their shifts while alone in the school. But one day, he received a horrifying video from one of his coworkers. While alone in the shift, he begins to hear something coming from the end of the hallway. What sounds like a weeping child can be heard, almost like it's walking by. If no one was in the school that day, then just what exactly?
This woman laid on a couch for 12 years until she was basically melted to it. So have you ever heard of Lacy Fletcher? Lacy's parents were Sheila and Clay Fletcher. They moved to Slaughter, Louisiana about 28 years ago. As soon as they moved to Louisiana, Lacy became involved in her school. She was making friends with all the neighbor kids. She liked to go outside and play. She even joined the volleyball team and seemed like the typical teenager. Lacy was described by her peers as highly intelligent but a little bit immature for her age. Lacy really enjoyed things that her peers thought of as childish. But she was still very smart and very outgoing, but not much else is known about Lacy. At the age of 14, Lacy's parents decided to homeschool her, and that's when she just kind of disappeared from the public. Her friends from school and the neighbor kids just stopped seeing her come out as much as she used to. And it kind of seemed like Sheila and Clay were the reason that Lacy was being so isolated. They were the reason that she no longer went out into public. She was able to have a birthday party when she turned 18 years old, and she invited all of her school friends and just friends to come watch Disney movies, but at this point, these kids were 18 years old. They didn't want to sit around and watch Disney movies with her. The last time Lacy was seen in public was by her neighbor in 2007. This neighbor thought that Lacy looked very thin, but he just figured that she was exercising because she was using those weights that you can put around your ankles to walk around. And then Lacy is not ever seen again in public. In 2017, the neighbor did ask about Lacy, figuring that she had either gotten married or moved on, gone to college, or done something else with her life. But Clay told him that Lacy was still there. She was still at home. But the neighbor didn't press further. He didn't question why he didn't see her. He just kind of let things be. Then on January 3rd of 2022 at about 2 in the morning, there is a 911 call received from Sheila. Sheila says that her daughter has stopped breathing. When emergency services arrived, they realized that there was something very wrong with the situation. Lacy was laying on the couch and it almost seemed like she had melted to it. She had all kinds of sores that had been opened all the way down to the bone. Her hair was knotted up and there were maggots crawling around in it. And emergency services could tell that Lacy had been laying there for a very, very long time. There were feces and there was urine all over the couch.
I don't know, sitting down for more than 2 hours for me is really uncomfortable. So the fact that she sat there for like 12 years, they said, ridiculous.
Morbid Facts, part 342. This was the last photo taken of Linkin Park lead singer Chester Bennington the day before he would end up taking his own life. It serves as a stark reminder that those who appear to be the happiest are sometimes the ones suffering the most. You were more likely to get a job in the 18th century if you had smallpox scars. The scars prove that you already had smallpox and couldn't pass it on to other workers. During the Holocaust, Jews in Budapest were brought to the edge of the Danube River, ordered to remove their shoes, and then were shot, falling to the waters below. As a memorial for the victims, 60 pairs of iron shoes now line the river's bank where the massacre took place. Richard Ramirez was once asked how people can escape being killed by a serial killer. His eerie response was, "They've made up their minds before they even encounter you, and there's no way out of it." The victim is already at a disadvantage because he or she will never understand the mind of a killer or what he is thinking.
That's actually very, very true. Like, some killers you'll never understand. Like, why are you out here just murdering people and then, you know, doing things with their corpse? Yeah.
Coincidences too creepy to be true. Edgar Allan Poe wrote a book in which a boy named Richard Parker was killed and eaten by other shipwreck survivors. 40 years later, a boy named Richard Parker would meet the same fate.
Damn.
14 hours prior to the tragedy of Chris Benoit, someone from WWE headquarters had edited his wiki page that he would be missing the upcoming event due to his wife's.
So I'm sure a lot of you guys know the YouTuber named Chills. He has over 6 million subscribers and is one of the most popular scary YouTubers on the platform. And he just used one of my TikTok clips in his video, and I figured I'd share it with you guys, so here it is.
This is a game of hide and seek that I want no part of. There's a criminal running loose, and Officer Saros is it. TikToker Maximum Fear shares this terrifying doorbell footage of his search for the suspect.
Is someone there?
This is Saros Garden Police Department. Yes, I just chased the subject around your house, and I was making sure he wouldn't have came in here. Do you guys have any kids?
No, we don't have any kids. It's just me and my husband. We both work during the day.
The suspect has fled, and the officer needs our help.
Do I need to come?
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Alright,
if you could check, see if your camera picked up any motion. We're looking for a subject in a red t-shirt. Okay.
And thanks to the doorbell footage, he gets it.
He's at my trash can.
Where's that at?
Damn.
The police race to the backyard. Unfortunately, that's where the video cuts off, and the fact that we don't know how it ends, in my opinion, makes it one of the scariest videos caught on a doorbell camera.
Nah, that's cold. I think they did end up catching. I remember seeing a part of that clip where he was actually in the trash can.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 22. In the 18th century, you could bring your cat or dog to the London Zoo and actually pay your admission by feeding it to the lions. Bus seats are specifically designed so you can't tell how dirty they really are. When an octopus reproduces, it removes its penis and throws it at the female so she can impregnate herself, and then he grows back another one. Oysters are actually alive when they're served. They don't die until you eat them. In Australia, there's a plant called the gimbi, which has such a severe sting that when horses brush up against it, they actually throw themselves off a cliff because they would rather die than experience the pain. Live chat support agents can see what you type before they send it so they can reply quicker. Spider rain, yes, you heard me right, is a real and naturally occurring phenomenon.
I didn't know that those live chats can actually see what you type before you type it. That's actually a little bit strange how that is. So I'll say if you're in a live chat with a customer service person, be careful what you type.
This child killer has been caught after 31 years. 7-year-old Nikki Allen was murdered in 1992. She disappeared while walking home from her granddad's house in Sunderland on the 7th of October. Heartbreakingly, she was found deceased in an abandoned building nearby. She'd been hit with a brick and stabbed.
Damn.
Convicted offender David Boyd has now been arrested. He'd actually been in a relationship with Nikki's babysitter at the time. Now, some claim that the reason he got away with this for so long is that the police investigation was seriously flawed. David was convicted of assaulting a 9-year-old child in 1999 and exposing himself to young girls.
It really be some of the grown people that are so weird to like children. It's like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. What do the children have to do with you and your babysitter girlfriend? Like, that's so strange.
My wife has a removable face. I've never looked at what's beneath it, but my best friend has. My best friend Chris tried convincing me to set up a camera in the bathroom so I could find out what's underneath my wife's face as she was cleaning it. And even though the curiosity was killing me, I never did it. But this was the night everything changed. I was hanging out with Chris when I got a work call, so I stepped outside for a few minutes, leaving him alone with my wife Samantha. Not long after, I heard a scream. Both Chris and Samantha were wailing in terror. I dropped my phone and ran. And as soon as I got back inside, I saw the bathroom door was open. "Don't come in, I don't have my face on," Samantha screamed. "Call an ambulance, he looked. Oh God, he looked." She sounded desperate and truly horrified. Suddenly, I realized my wife didn't want me to look at her real face, not because she felt insecure, but for my own safety. Chris staggered out of the bathroom holding a paperclip he used to pick the lock, and he was now stabbing it into his eyes over and over again. He lives in a psychiatric hospital now, completely blind and mostly catatonic, and no one could figure out what caused it. Samantha still cleans the inside of her face, but not as regularly, and when she puts it back on, it's always a little crooked. It's even begun to smell. He knew, I'd reassure her, he broke into the bathroom. That's not on you. Not on me? That one look at my face makes people go insane? Please, I just need some time alone. You know what's strange though? Despite what happened to Chris, I still find myself curious about what my wife's real face looks like. More curious than ever, really. Follow for more.
That was quite an interesting story. Imagine you could just take off your face and just clean it. Like, what? And then it smells if you don't do that. That's kind of strange.
This man got 23 years in prison and he's smiling. The man's name is Jason, or the Alaskan Avenger. He's a vigilante that hunted down child sex offenders and beat the hell out of them. Hi, Meg. I talk about true crime. Let's get into this case. In 2016, a man called Jason Yokovich started writing the names and addresses of people who had SA'd children. The registry of the nation's sex offenders was public, so it was easy for him to find. He called his list the Quest Log. He thought to himself, if the police won't do anything about these offenders, these kids are going to end up just like I did. So if the law won't punish them, I will. Jason and his brother had an awful childhood. Their stepfather would constantly leave them covered in bruises, and he also SA'd Jason and his brother. The police were aware of it, and they did nothing about it. Their stepfather got a slap on the wrist and was allowed to continue living with the boys. They were never checked up on again. Jason left home at a very young age to escape all of this. This childhood led him to lead a life of petty crime, theft, jail time, drugs, sadness. Eventually that pain turned into anger, and that's when he started making his quest log. On the 25th of June 2016, he knocked on the door of 68-year-old Charles. When Charles opened the door, Jason forced him into the house. To make a long story short, he basically beat the crap out of Charles while telling him how disgusting of a person he is and just verbally assaulting him as well. When Jason left, Charles called the police and told the police that Jason had a whole list of names. 27th of June, he strikes again and he shows up at 25-year-old Andre's house. He did the same to him, except he also robbed him. His final attack would take place only 2 days later. He broke into 67-year-old Wesley's house. He screamed at Wesley saying, "I'm an avenging angel. I'm going to mete out justice for the people you hurt." Unlike the others, Wesley did not listen to any instructions that Jason was giving him, and so he got it the worst. Jason started hitting him over the head with a hammer, leading him to have a fractured skull. The police then caught Jason and arrested him after this attack. Jason was 42 years old when he was arrested, and he was given 23 years in prison. He will be eligible for parole after 6 years, though. Now that you know the context, it makes this picture very powerful. This is Jason after his sentence was given to him, 23 years, and this is his brother. This picture alone says so much.
Wow.
These two went through the exact same childhood, the exact same trauma, and it's just, I don't know, to me it's a really powerful image. Let me know your thoughts on this story down below.
That is a very, very powerful picture. That's actually really, really crazy. It was on like his Batman timing, like vigilante, getting revenge for what happened. That's honestly, hats off to that dude.
You're home alone and you hear these terrifying noises coming from the attic. This man was so scared, but he wanted to record this terrifying creature that was making these bizarre sounds. Watch all the way to the very end to see this terrifying thing. Let me know what you guys think. Pay close attention.
Hey! Hey!
What?
A serial killer just confessed over the phone over in Texas. This whole story is honestly baffling and just goes to show you exactly why you'd never let these people out. 8-year-old Kendra Page was just riding her bike around this elementary school playground in Austin back in 1982 when she was brutally ambushed, assaulted, and fatally strangled by, at the time, a 21-year-old Raul Meza. He was actually out on bail at the time for attempting to execute this store clerk at a convenience store that he was robbing. The guy survived miraculously. This dude gets caught, strikes a plea deal for a 30-year sentence, which is already nowhere near enough, but due to good behavior, they let him out after 11 years. Here he is holding his own press conference to let the public know that there's nothing to worry about.
In my heart, I know that I will not willfully bring harm to anyone.
Now cut to this phone call made to police in May of 2023. This just happened. He's like, "Hey, so I murdered my 80-year-old roommate. I know you guys found him a few days ago." And sure enough, they had found this guy a few days earlier and appeared to have been killed with a knife. And he was like, "I also strangled this 66-year-old woman back in 2019. He couldn't remember her name, but he knew the street. And sure enough, it lined up and they linked him to that one through DNA. One thing he made clear on the phone was that he was planning on killing again, was excited to do it again. That became very apparent when they caught up to him where he had a backpack filled with zip ties, duct tape, a flashlight, 22 caliber pistol, just the works. This guy was ready to go. I think he realized that he couldn't get out of killing his roommate. He was gonna get caught for that. Also, there's 10 cold cases dating back to 1996 that completely align with his MO and his prison releases that they are now investigating him for.
And that's why you gotta be careful, because you never never know, bro. Some people just be wanting to kill people for no reason. Like, this guy just had the urge to just kill people. That's just weird. That's why I just mind my own business, you know what I'm saying? Make sure I know the people I'm around and just keep it pushing.
This is where Bloody Mary burnt 23 people alive. Hi guys, we're here today at Colchester Castle inside a fantastic museum. But as usual, we are taking you downstairs to the horrible bit. This is the castle's prison. And when the curator took us down here, the motion sensors were going off with no one inside.
The motion sensor's gone off. Yeah, there's no one in here.
This is me trying to move on from that swiftly and be as professional as possible while pretending I don't find this place horrifying. In fact, it was here where 23 innocent people were burnt alive in front of their friends and family. The architect of this cruelty was Queen Mary I, also known to her fans as Bloody Mary. Now, Mary's favorite thing to do in the whole wide world was to set fire to people who weren't Catholics, and she learned it from her dad, and his favorite thing to do was to execute people who were Catholics. It's all very confusing, but this was called, say it with me class, the English Reformation. Now, the bloodiest day of Mary's tirade took place when 5 innocent men and 5 innocent women were taken from these very prisons, tied to a stake outside, and slowly burned alive. And over the next 5 years, Queen Mary killed another 280 of her own people by burning them alive. And even the museum curator told us that often they'll hear banging from this room when the museum is closed, and that the motion sensors are always going off when there's no one here. Have a good—
If you ask me, sometimes some of these people have way too much power, bro. Like, why are you just out here killing people for no reason? It's weird to me how a human being could do that to another human. And you know how confusing that must have been? Oh, if you were Catholic, you're gonna get killed. Oh, if you weren't Catholic, you're gonna get killed. Like, what?
Morbid Facts, part 340. In 1904, 21-year-old Doppelganger was abducted from a tribe in the Congo and transported to the Bronx Zoo, where he was put on display alongside monkeys.
Hey, yo.
He was placed in a small cage with an orangutan as an apparent depiction of evolution. Oda was given a functional bow and arrow to enhance his primitive image and to protect himself from the ape if necessary. Since visitors were far more interested in Oda than the actual animals at the zoo, the exhibit was extremely popular and began shattering attendance records. The zoo started seeing an average attendance of over 200,000 people per month, most of whom headed straight to the primate house to catch a glimpse of Doppelganger. But by 1906, Oda was finally released from his torment thanks to mass public outcry from the black community. A few years later, he attempted to return to Africa, but his plans were thwarted by World War I. After struggling to assimilate into American society, Oda fell into a deep depression and tragically ended up taking his own life in 1916.
That's gotta be the most racist thing I heard all morning. What? So they put this black dude in a zoo and used him as a monkey as a way to show our evolution? Then sadly, he ended up taking his own life. I can't, bro. That's crazy, man.
The most morbid ways that people have passed away, part 8. Behind me is a photo of the Queen of Thailand from the year 1880. Her name was Sunanda Kumari Ratana. On one fateful day in 1880, Sunanda and her daughter were taking a boat to travel to a palace. Everything seemed to be going well, that is until they collided with a steamboat that was going in the opposite direction. This collision flung Sunanda as well as her daughter right into the water, neither of which were capable swimmers. Onlookers watched in horror as they saw Sunanda as well as her baby try to struggle against the waves, but with no success. But not a single person jumped in to save them, even though they had the capability to do so. And the reason is shocking. In Thailand, the royal family is extremely revered, and that means that it's against the law to show disrespect to the royal family. At this point in time, touching the royal family was also a sign of showing disrespect, and this could be punishable by death. So, when Sunanda and her daughter fell into the water, nobody jumped in to rescue them for fear that they would become executed even if they saved them. The rules are not as serious today, however, it is still an offense that's punishable for up to 15 years in prison. Follow for part 9.
I don't even think they did that because they got scared of being executed. I just think they ain't even like them. If I'm being real, royal families, some royal families are really just not liked.
This is the unsettling truth about Antarctica. What I'm about to explain to you is absolutely mind-blowing, and it might change the way you completely look at the world. Okay, so we all know that Antarctica is the strangest and just the weirdest continent on the planet. But recently, an incredible theory has been spreading, and it could completely change the way we look at this strange continent. According to this theory, Antarctica is not a vast expanse of ice at the bottom of the Earth, but rather a gigantic ice wall surrounding all of the continents. And to make it even crazier, some people even believe that if we were able to cross over this giant ice wall, we would discover other continents that have been intentionally hidden from us. And there we would find other life and creatures we have never seen before, and possibly aliens. In 1992, a new standard world map was released, called the Gleason map, and it depicted Antarctica completely encircling all of our continents. And to make this even crazier, the logo for the United Nations very strongly resembles this map. So is this theory just completely blown out of proportion? Or do you think Antarctica is actually a huge ice wall completely surrounding us, with other continents and life beyond it? All I know is that if this is actually true, I would do anything in my power to just get a glimpse of that other world.
It's kind of hard to tell, but I don't really think that that's true with the ice walls and stuff, because if you really look at maps, I don't know if you guys ever flew in airplanes, but when I was flying in an airplane, you could kind of see how the plane was moving with the world, if that makes sense. But you know, everything nowadays can be easily manipulated, so you never really know.
Is Michael Jackson really gone? The rumor that Michael Jackson faked his death is still well and alive. However, despite all the evidence, it only remained a rumor. Until recently, when some documents were leaked that Michael had a body double that allegedly was buried in his place. Well, you see, apparently MJ had tons of body doubles. However, his #1 body double, Dmitry Dravkaskescu specifically, spent 3 years to transform into MJ, using acting coaches and plastic surgery. However, sadly at the age of 47, he was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and Michael made sure that he lived in comfort for the rest of his days. But this also gave Michael the idea of having Dmitry buried in his place, so he could fake his death. This was later discussed with Dmitry, and a huge sum of money was paid out to his family the day MJ's death was reported. But despite this, many people are still wondering if...
I'm not gonna lie, that'd be strange. Imagine if Michael Jackson actually fakes a death. If that's the case, how many other celebrities fake their death?
This is my favorite Kardashian conspiracy theory that lives on to this day. It's Kourtney Kardashian's third child, Reign, not a Disick, but actually a Bieber. The internet believes so strongly that Justin Bieber and Kourtney Kardashian had a baby together because they had a famous rendezvous right around the time that Reign would have been conceived. Even Ellen was on her case about it.
Does Justin Bieber help with the kids at all, or? No. That's the rumor. I know y'all are just friends, right? Or are you really dating him? We're friends.
Yo, Ellen be in so many people's business,
Why are you
bro.
smiling that way? We're friends.
The strongest piece of evidence is how shockingly similar Reign and Justin look. Before I even knew this theory, anytime I would see Reign, I would think, he looks like Justin Bieber. If he grows out his hair into the Bieber swoop and starts singing Baby and sounds just like Justin, I'm calling Moreid. It's actually so fucked up because any video online of Reign gets flooded with comments about, he looks like Justin, Reign, Bieber. Scott and Kourtney had a major breakup in 2014, and if you remember on the show, that's when Scott went away to rehab, so he was out of the picture for a while. Kourtney and Scott in their tumultuous relationship, though, were definitely known to seek revenge on each other. So in this picture with Justin, he's hiding the woman's face, and his caption was, Lord knows, and everyone knows Scott calls himself the Lord. Interesting, down the line, Scott got with Justin Bieber's ex, Sophia Richie, maybe a revenge thing. He's like, I can get the young hot stars too, Kourtney. This theory has been cited to allegedly get under Scott's nerves a lot, and he even allegedly asked Kourtney to get a DNA test to confirm that Reign is his, but she would not. And the craziest part of this theory is that Scott and Kourtney broke up for the final time 6 months after Reign was born. Make sure to follow to know all the best celebrity conspiracy theories because you know Patty has them.
I'm not gonna lie, that kind of did look like Justin Bieber's. If that is Justin Bieber's kid, that's crazy, but I don't think it is. But anyways, if you guys like the video, please like the video. Remember to check these chains out down in the description. Get yourself, a Christmas gift for your family. And if you like this video, check out my next video. Thank y'all for watching. Peace out.